Okay, thanks, Mike. This is an image of the sun taken from the SOHO satellite, which I think is in certain ways kind of a good metaphor for what we're going to talk about today. As you know, what's going on in the sun there is fusion. So fusion, of course, means several different elements are being merged into a union. Two atoms of hydrogen are being combined to produce one of helium. And, of course, as we know from Einstein's equation, in the process, a terrific amount of energy gets released. And I think that's kind of a good analogy or metaphor for what we're going to talk about today, the idea of blending different ideas, different methods from different stakeholder perspectives to get a combination that releases energy and reduces resistance. Well, we're going to begin. I'll turn the control back to Mike to do this. We're going to do a short poll to get a sense of the configuration of the audience today.
Thank you, Gary.
Mike?
Thank you, Gary. We will present each question one at a time and allow approximately 20 seconds for all attendees to respond. The aggregate responses will then appear on your screens after each 20-second period. First question. What is the status of Agile methods in your organization? A, not being used. B, planned. C, getting started. Or D, more than 1 year. We have 60% of the vote in, 70% of the vote in. We're going to close the poll with 75% of the vote in, and showing the results, it appears that 35% are not using Agile, 6% have it planned, 34% are getting started, and 25% expect to be using Agile methods in more than 1 year. We'll go on to the next question. If you are using Agile, which of the following flavors? A, Scrum. B, XP. C, RUP. D, TSP, PSP. Or E, other. We have 46% of the vote in, 50% of the vote in, we will close the poll with 52% of the vote in, and it appears that 43% are using Scrum, 13% XP, 15% RUP, 2% are using TSP or PSP, and 27% are using other. Next question. What percentage of your development uses Agile methods? A, less than 25%. B, 25 to 49%. C, 50 to 75%. D, greater than 75%. Or E, don't know. And we have 66% of the vote in. 67% will close the poll with 70% of the vote in. And we've got 56% say that the less than 25% of their development uses Agile. 26% don't know, and the remaining answers were all spread across 5, 6, and 7%. And I believe we have one last question. How many people are in your software development organization? A, less than 100. B, 100 to 249. C, 250 to 499. D, 500 to 999. Or E, greater than 1,000. And we've got 75% of the vote in, 80% of the vote in. We'll close the poll with 80% of the vote. 26% have less than 100. 17% between 100 and 249, 12% between 250 and 499, 9% between 500 and 999, and 37% of our attendees today have over 1,000 people in their development organization. So, Gary, that does conclude our poll. You now have control of the presentation again. Please proceed.
Okay, thanks again, Mike. I thought those were pretty interesting results. I might mention, just in passing, one comment. I put the PSP, TSP on the list here, but not everybody agrees that those are Agile methods. In fact, in a conversation with Watts Humphrey, who of course is the author of PSP, TSP, he does not regard those as Agile methods. He regards them as methods that can be used in conjunction with an Agile approach, but not necessarily Agile in themselves, as they're also used in more plan-driven or more traditional kinds of life cycle development models. Okay, so what we're going to do today, the agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about Agile. I'm not going to assume that everybody really knows what it is, so we're going to do a little bit of a review of the Agile Manifesto, which is probably the cornerstone for Agile methods. We're going to talk a little bit about the relationship between Lean and software development and how that connects to Agile methods. I want to discuss briefly what maybe we could agree would be the essential attributes that define an Agile method, because certainly there are some instances that I have noted and others have noted in which organizations say that they're doing Agile, but when you really take a close look, they may be doing some aspects of Agile, but not really meeting all what might be regarded as the essential attributes of an Agile method. And then I want to talk a little bit about the probably well-recognized degree of friction between Agile methods and more traditional plan-driven methods. I want to talk a little bit about that. I think in some ways it's a false dichotomy, but we'll discuss that. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we might find a sweet spot or find a balance between Agile methods and more traditional methods, and understand something about where each one may fit. I want to talk then a little bit about Lean Six Sigma, give you an overview of that. Jack Spratt and his wife, of course, is an allusion to a Mother Goose story, and I'll explain that when we get to it. And then I want to talk a little bit about how, what some of the fits and some of the misfits may be between Lean Six Sigma and Agile methods. And then I just want to make a few personal observations about some of these things. I want to give you a list of a few references, and then we'll have time at the end for discussion and for a question and answer period. Okay, here's an overview of an Agile process flow. This particular one is Scrum, and I think in some respects it's a fairly representative picture of what many of the different methods are about. They certainly all have their variants, but I think a few central ideas. A flow typically will begin with some kind of a product backlog. That's some sort of a prioritized list of requirements from the customer. Some of those will be selected to be included in what is called a sprint. In the Scrum terminology, the term is sprint. Basically, the notion is a short iteration which will take a certain requirement and produce a working system, working code of some kind. And so one typical kind of a cycle is 30 days. Nothing sacred about 30 days. It could be a little longer, a little shorter. And that has sort of mini cycles within it. Every day, in the case of Scrum, they do a 15-minute stand-up meeting where they basically discuss status, discuss any issues that have arisen, and discuss what they're going to do between this meeting and the next meeting on the following day. And then so at the end of a cycle like 30 days, some new functionality is delivered and demonstrated at the end of the sprint. This particular diagram is taken from this website, which has other information of maybe of interest to you if you're not particularly familiar with it. I want to review just a little bit about the principles of the Agile Manifesto. As you